Today I want to talk about the difference between active racism and passive racism, because far too often we treat them as if they're the same. So let me share an excerpt from the book. What makes understanding racism more complicated is the notion that all racists are the same, depicted as cross-burning, hate-mongering bigots who spout racial epithets, wear Ku Klux Klan regalia, and participate in the vilest of activities. Active, extreme, or overt racism remains the easiest to identify. Passive racists exist alongside extremists, tight-lipped in their commentary and keeping their actions under the radar. Passive racists deny access and opportunities to others because of their identity. They often do so unknowingly and unintentionally. Here's the problem. When we give more consideration to active racism and active racists, and not enough attention to passive racism and passive racists, then we do ourselves a disservice. It's simply because of this reality. There are far more passive racists than there are active racists, and thus they can provide a lot more collateral damage as it relates to what happens within society and across the world at large. So the question I get asked is, what do we do about passive racism and passive racists? Well, let me share something with you, another excerpt. Educating passive racists is paramount to eradicating racism. We need to teach passive racists that backing profoundly successful people of color because they are successful in spite of their race is potentially as damaging and negatively impacting as cross-burning, epithet-hurling, aggressive forms of racism. The problem is, passive racism is often steeped in unintentional condensation. See, here's the challenge. When you compliment somebody in spite of their race, it sends the message that they're only good because they're acting outside of the guise of their quote-unquote racial identity. And that in itself is an insult. We've got to figure out a way to do it as a genuine and authentic compliment, not out of condescending attitudes and perspectives.